Welcome to True Health Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. Okay, now for months, it's been really driving me crazy because when I'm doing research, I look at data, okay, correlate the data, make sure that everything, lines up with my knowledge of anatomy, physiology, neurology, and then I'll post it. And so when you see stuff that just doesn't make any sense, and it hasn't made any sense for week after week, came up with the absolute brilliant reason that all of this stuff is going on. Okay, and I mean, it was satisfying. It was like popping a zit that wouldn't pop. It's like pooping after a long constipation. Just amazing. So we're going to go into that. But now, let's look at this. Okay, these are pictures of what is planned when we open schools. Okay, that means that the children will not be able to see their faces of their friends. This is going to be isolation. And we're going to go, and this is not Orwell's 1984. Okay, this is 2020. Now, here's a psychologist, Stephen Porges. We need cues from others such as facial expressions, tone, voice, body posture to appraise whether or not a person is safe. Facial expressions help others to calm our nervous system, but we don't receive those signals. We might go into survival mode. No kidding. How are you going to communicate? There's body language. Well, this is what's happening today. Okay, we do have censorship going on, if that was unusual. I don't know how long the YouTube is going to be put up, because after 13 years of doing this, 13 years I've been posting videos at least once a week. Okay, since 2007, we have 978 videos, and just for the fun, because I don't know how long this is going to last. So I was going to say, dude, it was a good run. Okay, 74 million views, okay, which is a lot, I thought, okay? But when you look at it, if you watched how much time was on there, it's actually 675,000 days or 1,849 years of content. I know. Yeah, but what the heck? So they're censoring and demonetizing because I take about 20, 25 hours a week studying on this. But it's a passion because I'm looking for my patients. So if my patients say, hey, doc, should I wear a mask? And I'll say, well, the data doesn't support it. Here's a waiver, and this is what the mask does. If it's protecting you, it's not really protecting you because you have to look at where the droplets are coming from, how it's transferred. Does this weaken the immune system? So I'll do the research on cancer, arthritis reversal, everything. I mean, here's some of the top videos I got. There's a bunch that have over 1 million views. Some have over 2 million views. And this is what my entire world has been. I look at facts and data, anatomy and physiology, and present it in a certain format. So if you look at all the videos, first I'll put forth a condition, like inflammatory bowel disease, arthritis, whatever. Then I'll put the medical definition of that, then the medical therapies, which is typically a symptom drug therapy, how completely stupid that is and how that bypasses the natural physiology and that a person goes through, that typically most diseases are an adaptive response to stress, and then I'll put up the normal solutions. So it's been real popular. What's interesting is for 13 years, I've had that same pattern and I've never broken the community guidelines. Okay, now I'm breaking the community guidelines because when this started, YouTube, I think, was separate from Google, but now that Google's in the pharmacy business and has joined, this is where the big push is coming. So these are some of the deleted videos that I put up, and I know it's hard to see, but there's 8 of them there, and I'll just read the titles for fun, okay? How to wipe out the coronavirus. That was March 15th. I'm not afraid of the coronavirus because I have a plan. And then coronavirus February 18th and coronavirus number 3. So So there's a bunch of them in there, and some were the long version and short versions, but those evidently offended people. Okay, so let's look at the restrictions, because this is what was driving me crazy. If they're making suggestions, because I make suggestions based on facts, data, and experience. I'm not just pulling it out, oh God, here's a fact, okay? And so when people say, your business is essential, you're not. You're essential, you're not. You're essential. How? What's the judgment? So it's really hard to find an actual list, particularly from California, but they do have some in San Francisco. This was a really cool list. And when I say cool list, it seemed to be fairly broad, and it was easy to cut and paste. I'm telling you the truth. I suck at typing, okay? I've written 11 books, and it's all like this, okay? So this was out of the Memphis, but, and the restrictions vary by city. They vary by state. They vary by country, okay? So there is no actual standardization. And so what makes you go along and say, wow, you're right. My business is not essential, or my business is. Okay, just think about this. We go along with it because people in authority are giving you that message. And this is the whole crux of this, that you are only alive because you made it through parental units, either parents or uncles, whoever raised you. And you had to follow their rules. And if you didn't follow their rules, they could not feed you, they could kick you out, or something else. So you had to conform, okay, your wants and desires in order to survive, which is cool. So now we have the government telling you, and we want to get along. We want to do this. This is what our training is. This is why you're a good person when you go to school and you follow the rules. Now, it's interesting. These are the non-essential businesses in Memphis. Now, some of them are essential, some of them aren't. Evidently, churches are not essential. Okay, evidently, of course, if you're a pastor or minister, you might think the church is essential. Hairstyles, barbershops, and things, that would not be essential according to this list. However, if you have kids and this is your business and you want to feed the children, you might consider that what? Essential. Oh, essential. Good idea. Okay. So this is totally random. Now you might say, but wait a second, wasn't there studies that show that all the flu seasons in the past, those restaurants were harbingers of doom? My God, if you go to a restaurant, you can catch the flu at flu season. Oh no studies. Oh my gosh, the hair salons. We got salon owners that are just dropping like flies from the flu every year. Oh, that didn't happen either, did it? No. And that's what was driving me crazy. Then they do stuff like close things that people use to keep them healthy, like gymnasiums or parks. Now, again, this is what was driving me nuts, because it's not based in science. There is no reason for this. Why should I have to follow something that has no basis in common sense or reason? Okay, why are you closing the beaches? Why are you saying that I got to stay 6 feet away from people when I got 380 trillion viruses in me, and so does everybody here? It didn't make sense. But then you're going to learn something about cognitive dissonance. Because our training has kids and school and everything else, if something is so far away from your view of what reality is, you choose not to believe it. Okay, so let's say you're dyed-in-the-wool, absolutely love vaccines. You think they're the greatest gift in the world. You think, man, those little kids should have 72 doses of 17 different vaccines, and they shouldn't even have any exemptions. Okay, and I say, hey, look, by the way, each person individually can respond different to this procedure. Oh, by the way, the risk of chronic disease that says it can be caused by the vaccines is going up higher in our kids. In fact, we have 54% of our children have a chronic illness or disease. But if you hear that information and see the data on it, but you are so involved in this passion, in this religion, you're going to say, I don't hear it. Okay, it can't happen. Now, we're also going to learn about normalcy bias. And this blew me away because this is super important to understand why all of these insane restrictions are being put on you. First, cognitive dissonance. Even presented with different information, you're not going to believe it because of a hardened belief system. Now, paternalization. And this is hugely important because knowing that you all got to this stage where you're alive by following certain rules and orders. If we take away your connection with society, we take away your social groups, we take away your bowling league, the Elks Lodge, church, the salon that you go to, the bar you go to. Okay, yes, don't worry, we're going to leave the gun shops and liquor stores open. I'm just talking about social interaction, so don't get upset. Okay, boy, there's one in every crowd. Okay, so when you take away all the social interaction you have, we're social beings. You're going to crave something. And then you have the parent say, you now are no longer essential, so you have to stay home. But what are we going to do? We're going to use a catchphrase, a slogan. Stay home, stay safe. In fact, you're a good girl if you stay home. You're a good boy. Yeah, because you're protecting others by doing what you're told to do. You're going to stay home like this and stay on social media. So this way you still have a connection. Oh my gosh, how wonderful. So wiping out all the social groups and social interaction groups, you now have a new, I don't want to say new God, okay? But you now have somebody that's in a controlling aspect. Now, normalcy bias blew me away. When you look at this, this means that you have a bias that everything's going to be normal. And I saw this one video, two guys talking on a street. This one guy comes up out of the blue with a gun, points it at these two guys that are talking, pulls the trigger, and the gun doesn't go off. And instead of running, screaming, attacking the guy, throwing him to the ground, it was so bizarre that they looked at this guy and he ended up loading the gun, fixing the gun, and shooting the guy. And it's just because it's so far afield from what we can possibly believe. And this is one of the reasons, because people, it can't be this crazy. Of course it's going to go back to normal. Okay, so this is the new normal, and we'll explain the rituals that the public is going through right now to convert you to understand this is the new normal. Okay, we're going to have limited groups of people. Okay, even in church, you have to be separate. Okay, now has this ever been done for any infection, disease, anything, anytime, everywhere? No, even the 1918 flu, they limited groups to 10 people, but they didn't isolate healthy people. They didn't quarantine healthy people. Okay, they wouldn't go along with it because you don't work in 1918, you ain't eating. Social distancing, whether it's based in science or not, we're going to cover that. Okay, this will have to remain in place. So if you're on a bus, you have to be 6 feet away from one. If you're in a restaurant, 6 feet away, you have to have social distancing. Don't think if it's based in science. Stop thinking about that. Okay, masks are going to be required in every aspect. You should wear it as soon as you leave your home. Okay, don't ask if it's efficacious, if it's safe, if it's you're just going to have, this is the new normal, by the way. Now, mandatory vaccinations. Why? Because once the vaccine comes through, now there's absolutely no liability for all the childhood vaccines that we have, and product liability from the companies. Since it's a pandemic, don't worry. If there's a problem, they can't be sued, okay, from a number of different acts. And this isn't just, okay, I'm going to get this one shot so I can go back to work. No, this is a new shot every year as long as you're alive. And then you have to qualify for the 13 different other adult vaccines. Now, contact tracing. Now, there's a number of countries that have done contact tracing throughout the world. And we have their data, and I'm going to bring up some of that because let's say that I go into your home. I'm a contact tracer. Now, no, I don't need a warrant. Don't worry about that. There's all these constitutionalists here occasionally. Okay, no, I can just go in there because I'm a public health officer. Okay, and I'm going to check your temperature and check your nose. And if you test positive for COVID, now I know the tests are about 80% inaccurate, false positives, okay, and then it doesn't identify just the SARS-CoV-2. It could have a false positive based on any other SARS virus, which is about 25% of all the common colds. So it's not going to be real accurate. But then if you test positive, I can personally quarantine you for 2 weeks, and then I look at all the people that you've been exposed to. Okay, and so now we can quarantine them for at least 2 weeks. You're right. We should find out who they were exposed to as well. Okay, now travel restrictions. This has been tested in Argentina, and this will be enacted here. That if you do not have your vaccination, fully vaccination, heck, let's include medications in there too. If you have high blood pressure and you're not taking your diuretic, you're not going to get your card either. Okay, so that's important. Now also, just for your convenience and safety, you're going to have an electronic chip in there. So this way you don't need to, if you lose your card, don't worry, you're not going to lose your arm because it'll be a chip right in there. Now, what's interesting about this, it's for your convenience and safety. Make sure that each neighbor, look to the left and look to the right, they should have a mark on their arm where the card is. If there isn't, we're going to put new chips in you to make sure that we can have a good tracking for the safety of everyone. That is the new normal. That is what is planned. Now, as weird as this sounds, if I said this 8 months ago, you'd say, dude, do not do a health talk stoned. Okay? Okay. This is what's planned. Now, what's a trip is, when I'm looking at some of this research, non-essential businesses are those that people frequent for pleasure, like gyms, restaurants, bars, concert halls, museum, churches, mosques. This is not for pleasure. We need social connection. We need interaction like we need vitamin C. We need this stuff. Solitary confinement is one of the things that you do when you're bad, when you're already in prison. Because when you're in prison, you're locked up. But if you screw up in prison, you get in solitary confinement where you can't even be around people. And this is what we're turning into. So this is why all of that crap led up to this. Okay? This is why it's being done. It's a ritual. Okay? It's designed to kill the old life and build the new one. And there's 3 stages to it. So think of this. Isolation. If you've ever been like a Boy Scout or joined any group, what do? You got to separate yourself. You put on a different uniform, you put on a different garb, you're separated up on stage, you have to go through a process, something. You're separated, isolated. Why? Because it removes you from the familiar. I know, you're right. Let's do it to an entire country. Okay, we'll label businesses essential and non-essential. We'll tell you to stay home, stay safe. Great isolation technique. I like that. Okay, now, sacrifice is important. Why? Because you're going to sacrifice so that you can save lives. Your actions can save lives right now. Stay home, stay safe. And if your neighbor is out, turn him in. Okay, now you have to, repetition, stay home, stay safe is vital. Trauma and personalize the fear of death. How many people died today? In America, about 7,700, but they weren't dying from the flu or COVID. That's just how many people die every day in America. There's around 440 people die every day in New York. Okay, so you have about a 1 in 130 chance of dying in your car when you get into it. Okay, so there's people dying. But this way, if we talk about it and repeat it over and over, 4 more cases today. Of what? I could have said 4 cases of beer, okay? So you keep changing, and disorientation, that weakens the defenses. That is key. So what are we doing? Okay, we're going to open back them at April. Whoop, not April. Okay, then it's going to be Easter. Nope, not Easter. Okay, then it's going to be Memorial. Oh, not Memorial Day. Okay, we're going to do phase 1. Oh, but we got to go slower. Anybody know what the restrictions are going to be next week? Anybody? Anybody? Any state? No, because you are totally disoriented. You're totally disillusioned. You have no idea. So now, since you don't have any connection with the barber, with the church, with anything else, you have, who's going to give me the answer? Who's going to save me? It's that paternalization of the government and the governmental authorities. So now it's the transition phase. We're opening up to the new world. This is the new normal. The old self dies, reprogrammed into the new environment, reformed and reconstituted. Then you get integration. You will be approved for the new normal. Rituals, isolation, stay home, stay safe, suspension of the normal, familiar life. Can you imagine what's going to happen to these children in school, masked, separated? Why can't I hang with Billy? Why can't I hang with Dude or Palco? These are the names of the friends that I grew up with, okay? Okay, honest to God. Okay, it's 72, I was 12, don't worry about it, okay? Okay, but we had social interaction. We had wrestling. We had dirt clod fights, okay? I mean, you'd go up and we had dead arm contests. That was not social distancing. Bam! Okay? I mean, those are young bucks exploring the world. Yeah, how can you tell his facial expression? What's going to happen if you raise children separate, telling you to be afraid of your neighbor, that neighbor could be sick, and that you can't express yourself? What's the psychology behind this? What's going to happen in a year? Insulated, isolated, the initiate can be molded to the new normal. This is the initiation. Masks are always important. Why? Because it suppresses the ego. It's disguised under a mask. It facilitates the death of the old self because you can't see anything, just the eyes. Now, this is the World Health Organization, June 8th. Okay, what is that, today? Yesterday. From the data we have, it still seems to be rare that an asymptomatic person transmit it onward to a secondary individual. The whole purpose of the mask, and this is what I'll ask people when they're wearing it. They're coming in and I'll say, well, why are you wearing the mask? They look at me like, what? Why do you ask? Isn't everybody supposed to wear it? Well, you got 3 choices. Are you sick? No. Well, neither am I. Cool. It doesn't look really good on you. Are you wearing it because you're attractive? Honest to goodness. And so then it takes like a couple of minutes, and I said, well, you know, it is decreasing oxygen in your brain about 20%, and it's creating an oxidative stress. If so, you know, you're welcome to take it off. And you know what they do 100% of the time so far? Thanks. Okay. Now, it's very rare. Now, the whole purpose of wearing the mask, of doing the contact tracing, is to find those asymptomatic individuals. Okay, does anybody have any symptoms from the 2017-2018 flu? Okay, good. You're asymptomatic individuals. You went through that year. Okay, you might have got it, might have not. Okay, you might have developed antibodies. That's cool. Now, in April 1st, and this is not an April Fool's joke, they said, oh my God, the potential for pre-symptomatic transmission is a reason for social distancing. A few months later, we're saying, God, it doesn't really transfer that way. Okay, now here's an actual alert for California schools that came out. Yes, the schools are phase whatever, okay? So what are they going to do? Okay, all the children have to be wearing masks. How would you like to go to a school like this? Okay, all the children wearing masks, cleaning and sanitation. God, hopefully we can make it as clean as hospitals, which have, 100,000 deaths a year from hospital-acquired infections. Temperatures and symptoms checked. Okay, So we're going to check everybody's temperature. Okay, Mrs. Johnson, check my temperature so I can go sit down. Oh, I'm too hot? Yeah, I was just playing. Oh no, don't worry. Look down here. They've eliminated general lunch and recess. You don't need physical activity to keep healthy. Now, let's close the beaches. Limited teacher and students, social distancing 6 foot apart, reduced bus capacity, staggered learning. Yeah, that's a great way to develop connection. So is any of this stuff based in science? And a friend just sent me this picture. I had to put it up there. If the USA saw what the USA is doing in the USA would invade the USA to save the USA from the tyranny of the USA. I'm going, that makes sense. As weird as it sounds. Okay, so when you look at this, restricting outdoor activities, that's based in science? No. But in order to accept it, you've had to paternalize the people that are giving you the authority, because you don't have that logic and common sense, because you have had that normalcy bias. You're thinking, well, it'll all go back to normal. It can't be crazy. They're not going to shut down the entire economy forever. Okay? Yes, they can. Okay? Just because the global domestic product was 1/3 of the global domestic debt, that multiple countries were going bankrupt, okay, just because they need to reset the economy, they wouldn't actually do that, would they? Yes, they are. Okay, yes, they are. Then, okay, I mean, experimental coronavirus vaccines, how many people want to sign up for that? Okay, I got to tell you, the majority will, because of the fear. Because that way you can go back to normal, and then you're a good girl for doing it. Wow. Think how crazy that is. So we got the tests that are up to 80% false positive. Okay, they say minimum about half false positive, but they're not really identifying it. We have the change in belief systems. And this is huge, because this is when you make the decision. How are you going to believe? How are you going to live? How do you want to live? Imagine if we move to, well, I don't know, a free country. Okay, someone that maybe had a constitution that valued freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of connection, okay, and respect for the planet. So they have the allopathetic model, and this is how all models work. You have this idea, this belief system, okay? Like, let's say there's a god of thunder, there's a god of the ocean, there's a god of the mountains. And then you sacrifice everybody. You develop an infrastructure. Amazing. Okay, but then you find out that you just sacrificed the goat and your ship sank and you did it to Poseidon. So then you have challenges with that belief system. Let's say that you think the current healthcare system is fantastic. It's medications for symptoms. You have joint pain? No problem. I can give you a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Of course, it will destroy your kidneys and destroy your joint cartilage. You're going to be comfortable, though. Okay, I can give you an antidepressant. I'm not going to look at the gut-brain connection. I'm not going to look at the leaky gut or the frontal lobe dysfunction, or to think that any abnormal stimulation up to the cerebellum will cause frontal lobe dysfunction, leading to anxiety, stress, and depression. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you this antidepressant that has a suicide warning on it. Okay, and there's no way to tell if you're at risk of suicide or this will help you. Here you go. Here you go. Okay, so that's medication with symptoms. Okay, and I think medications, Dr. Death, is I think it's the third or the first leading cause of death in America. It really depends on the study that you look at. Now, vaccinations for disease prevention. No, stop talking about vitamin C. Forget vitamin D3, forget exercise, chiropractic, homeopathy, naturopathy. No, dude, this is one size for all. Yes, there's going to be collateral damage. You know, it's for the greater good. It really is. So no individuality. Now, if you like this system, conform, okay? And of course, it's going to die off because we have too many challenges. Personally, I think health freedom, allowing you to choose what you would like to do. If you want to get a vaccine, great, go for it. If you want to not get it and take vitamin C, great, go for it. Okay, if somebody has a safe and efficacious vaccine, I would recommend it to all of my patients. If it was safe for all of my patients, if all of my patients needed it. But I have not seen safety studies, particularly placebo-controlled safe studies, that can guarantee that this will have a positive effect without a negative effect. So I'm not recommending those. Support health, diet, exercise, that's a great idea. Individualized therapies, oh, I like this. So I like this new belief system. So let's tear down the old one. Face masks, British Medical Journal. And the first study of randomized controlled cloth masks and the results caution against the use of cloth masks. Okay, and the moisture retention and reuse of cloth masks, poor filtration may result in increased risk of infection. Whoa, the British Medical Journal says if you have a cloth mask, this can increase infection. Just what we tell our patients. ACP Journal, in conclusion, both surgical and cotton masks seem to be ineffective in preventing dissemination of the SARS-CoV. Let's go to MedRxiv. The evidence is not sufficiently strong to support widespread use of face masks as a protective measure against COVID. Poor data. So this that's going to alter our children's physiology and mental health and probably affect them the rest of their life. They'll say, oh yeah, Bob, you remember when we were like 8 and we were afraid of everybody because they were all infected? No, Bob, take off the rubber gloves. No, you don't need the mask anymore. Face masks, cidrap.um.edu. In summary, cloth masks exhibit a low filter efficacy. Thus, even the masks that fit well against the face will not prevent inhalation of small particles by the wearer or small emission of the particles from the wearer. Face masks. Given the paucity of information about their performance as a source of control in real-world settings, along with low efficacy of cloth masks as filters and their poor fit, there is no evidence to support their use by the public or healthcare workers to control emission of particles from the wearer. So you put it on, you weaken your immune system, it doesn't really protect you. Okay, great study. South Korea, I brought this up before, 4 people with COVID. Actually, they're spitting it up. One coughs in a petri dish without a mask, then they put an N95 mask on, coughs in it, cloth mask, coughs in it, in a negative pressure room. They found out there was a huge amount of virus on the outside of the mask, nothing on the inside, and a bunch in the petri dishes. Didn't work. Interestingly, the swabs on the outside of the mask were positive, while most of the swabs were negative on the inside of the mask. Why? Because it dies at 80 degrees. Face masks, the CDC. Oh, I know. Every time they say the CDC, you should hear angels sing because they never make a mistake. Okay. We did not find evidence that surgical type face masks are effective in reducing laboratory confirmed transmission of influenza, either worn by infected people or by the general community to reduce the susceptibility. So why are they recommending it? This is a ritual. It is not based in science. This is a ritual. It's hiding your identity. It's losing the ego. Plus, it's so easy to identify those that are conforming and those that still have a challenge. And I'm going to report you. Social distancing. Social distancing is untested pseudoscience, particularly as it relates to halting transmission of the SARS-CoV virus. On the CDC website, they provide no links to peer-reviewed social studies. The American Thinker, it's very likely you've already instinctively know that the guidelines suggesting it's somehow helpful to keep a 6-foot space between healthy people, even outdoors, is not based on science, but just arbitrary suggestions we've been conditioned to accept without evidence. The inside UPMC, what we cannot do is extend social isolation. Human beings are social, and we already see the adverse mental consequences of loneliness that has a much greater effect on economic devastation take hold on the human condition. Now this, I know it's a really crappy picture, but the information was really cool, and I just got it off, I think, a Facebook page. But it's a really neat comparison to compare California, Texas, Florida, and New York. And I mean, California's got about double the population of everybody, but they're really populous states. So it'd be kind of cool to compare it since they're all going through it. Now, when we look at COVID cases, 69,000 for California, 41,000 for Texas, 41,000 for Florida. Those are the number of people that have tested positive for this. Okay, and they're all pretty similar, yes? How did New York get 336,000 cases? Okay, knowing that they have half the population of America? Something smells fishy. Okay, so, and we can look at which ones have closed the restaurants, which one have opened. They're all doing some form of restriction. But what is this all about when we look at the deaths? COVID deaths in California, 2,800, Texas, 1,100, Florida, 1,700, New York, 27,000. Now, this is a lot. Now, when you consider the people dying, you can't limit yourself to everything. Okay, you can die of heart disease. 600,000 people die of that every year, but we didn't shut down the economy. 600,000 of cancer, 169,000 of accidents, 160,000 of respiratory illnesses. All of these we're not masking or social distancing for. Stroke, Alzheimer's, diabetes, influenza, 55,000. Of course, 2017, 18, it was 2017, 2018, I think it was like 90,000. Kidney disease, but intentional self-harm, that's suicide, 47,000 on average. Does anyone think with all of this isolation and everything that the suicide rates might increase substantially? Absolutely. So let's go back. Let's just take a step back and look at reality. Let's look at the germ theory. Because this, in theory, if you ask the regular person, I'm wearing this mask because I don't want to catch a what? Germ. Yeah, virus. So we have two competing schools here. Pasteur felt that the germ caused the disease. Beauchamp thought that it has to do with the terrain. So let's just ask this question, and this is how it started with the doctors that don't really know much. Okay, doc, do germs cause disease? Yes, they do. Okay, 10 people walk through a swamp. They all get bit by malaria-containing mosquitoes. Do all 10 of them get malaria? No. That's what they always say. They always say no. Okay, why? What's the deciding factor? Oh, the immune system. Oh, okay, so it's not the pathogen. It has to do with the immune system. So this is the key. Now, when we look at the International Journal of Vaccine and Vaccination, and I love this, who had their finger on the magic of life, Antoine Beauchamp or Pasteur? Now, if we look at our population, 60% of American adults have a chronic illness or injury they'll never get over. 54% of children, they will have a chronic illness or injury that they will never get over. And 77% of our 18 to 24-year-olds do not qualify for military service because they are sick. Okay, this is an all-volunteer force. There is no medical doctrine as potentially dangerous as partial truth implemented as the whole truth. Any medical professional, bioscientist, healthcare practitioner, layperson for that matter, who wishes to gain insight into the origins of nature of infectious and chronic illness against the backdrop of a marvelous view of the life process must consider Beauchamp. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thus, he clearly presented the idea that the physical life of a higher biologic form arises and is dependent upon and recycled by microscopic beings. A simple immediate proof of the dependence of the indispensable bacteria population of the human GI tract. Now, remember the disinfectant of everything? Okay, is that going to negatively affect the human gut? Will that ultimately weaken the immune system? Yes. So it's not the germs, it's the health of the individual. Theobald Smith developed the germ formula. Virulence times number of pathogens times opening site divided by the resistance of host. This is divided by your health, by your physical, chemical, and emotional health. This is what you put in your body, how you exercise. If any, and this is what has been driving me nuts, is how can they make decisions that are against physiology and anatomy and has no bearing in microbiology. It's all for the rituals. It's all for the rituals. Lancet, 1968. The germ theory has become dogma because it neglects many of the other factors that play a part. Oh my God, this makes sense. Whether host-germ environment complex leads to infection. Let's look at British Medical Journal 2004. Now, right now, if you talk to the talking heads or listen to the talking heads, and don't worry, you don't have to listen to NBC, CBS, ABC, or any of the other ones, because they're all saying the same thing. Just pick one, okay? Make sure they're good looking, okay? Because it's erroneous information, and it's much more fun to look at a good-looking person than not a good-looking person, okay? The biomedical model of illness, which has dominated healthcare for the past century, cannot fully explain many forms of illness. That's true. All illness have a single underlying cause. That's what you're hearing from the talking heads. Removal of this disease is always the single cause. You don't need to worry about the secondary comorbid conditions that 100% or 99.9% of the people that are dying from this have. You don't need to think of that because it's only one cause. Okay, removal or attenuation of the disease will result in a return to health. Evidence exists that all three of these assumptions are wrong. They are. When we look at Gary Fathom, professor of immunology, if a person would ask me how my immune system's doing, I would have no idea. Mark Davis, it's staggeringly complex, the immune system. Nobody knows how it works. Okay, so it's all a combination of things. It's not like a one organ system that you can measure, blood enzymes to see how the liver is doing, or blood function, or glomerular filtration rate to see how the kidneys are working. So what is this? Is it germs, genetic, virus, fungus? You've got a choice now. And you're always going to have a choice. Even they pass the mandatory laws when they start walking you up to the FEMA camps, okay? You have a choice now, okay? We can choose vitalism. You can choose that your body is self-healing and self-regulating right now. If somebody says, put the mask on, you can say, no, it doesn't work, okay? But you're supposed to. Then go to the chiropractor, or go to your naturopath, or go to your homeopath, and say, look, can you print me up a mask waiver? And if they don't, okay, say, look, call my chiropractor, call me, email me or something, and I'll send them my copy, and they can put it on their letterhead, or they can do it. So this is one way that you can start taking back your health. Okay, is start looking and talking to people. Because with all my videos being eliminated, there's a bunch being eliminated, okay, a bunch. Every time I post it, it's like Rashid Bashar or Robert Kennedy, man, it's up there for maybe a day. Okay, so this is blatant. This is blatant control. Or you can go with the flow, follow everything and submit to the new normal. Which side do you want? Because you still have a choice. Even when they lock people in prison, when they put Mandela in prison, what was he in there, 17 years? Okay? I mean, the guy had courage and vision. Just amazing. Just do not comply. This is the future of healthcare, and this is what you actually have. You have an innate immunity. I mean, you're all born with some form of resistance to disease. Why? Because you got it from your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents. You have adaptive immunity, and this is what requires infection. You require exposure. You have 380 trillion viruses in your body that you need exposure. This is how your body thrives in here. How would you like to not work out a muscle? It wouldn't last that long. Passive immunity, this is through mother's milk. Except now we're vaccinating mothers so they don't have real immunity that they can pass on. So one of the reasons we're seeing such a high rise in chronic illness of the kids is because of the low infectious rate, that we actually need certain infections to build our immune system. Is this a good way to live? Organic, plant-based, normal, healthy? I prefer it. Okay, so this is my plan. There is an innate intelligence of the body. Health is the natural state of the body. That means that if you have a symptom, it means that your body is trying to adapt. It's not something that needs to be corrected or eliminated. All therapies must be in harmony with the functions of the body. If you have higher blood pressure, guess what? We're going to look at the blood, look at the health of the blood, and find out why your body is adapting with that higher pressure. We're going to heal the body, get you out of the physical, chemical, emotional stress. If you have high levels of cholesterol, if you have an inflammatory bowel disease, where's the tissue damage so we can correct that? All vaccinations will stop till long-term independent research is completed. Anybody have a problem with that? I mean, let's just make sure that they're safe for everybody. Not a 400% increase in autism from the MMR, like William Thompson said, if you're African American descent. That's psychotic. Medical schools should not accept funding from the pharmaceutical industry that prejudices their viewpoints and their approach to health. All healthcare research should be independent. Damn, that makes sense. Okay? How about the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices? How about real doctors in there, not people that are industry shills? The pharmaceutical industry will be financially and morally responsible for their products. Anybody got a problem with that? No. Okay, why? Because I want to make dangerous toasters and give them to everyone. No, that's foolishness. Okay, and all humans be able to choose any health care. Nothing will be forced on them. And that makes sense. That just makes sense. So all of our stuff is we have a couple of sanctuaries now. BitChute, all the eliminated videos, our channel is John Bergman. They're on there. Okay. We've got YouTube, Extreme Health Academy. We've got everything on there. So I encourage you to get on Extreme Health Academy, use Bergman 14 so you can get in there for free for a couple of weeks. But do not just download the URL. Download the whole video. 978 videos. How long will it be up there? Heck, nobody here knows how many restrictions are going to be next week. Okay, does that make sense? You will be able to take your freedom back. You will, absolutely. But what do you do when they knock on your door? You say no. You say no. Nancy Reagan was right. I still thought Reagan was a great speaker. You know, the guy was rocking. Yeah, so let's take back our health. Let's utilize and be bold. Be bold. If you see someone wearing a mask, if you see someone standing 6 feet away, just say, why are you standing 6 feet away? We'll practice social distancing. Well, are you aware that that is not based in science? It's actually pseudoscience. Why are you wearing a mask? Are you sick? No, you're not sick? Okay, I'm not either. What type of assurance do you need to take off your mask so that I can see your face, so we can have that connection? Okay, let's open up a conversation. Come from love. I mean, frankly, it'd be more fun to just go up and just start ripping masks off. But that would only be fun in my world, okay? Next week, hopefully we're going to be able to talk about anatomy and physiology, because I want to get in the gut-brain connection, because with all of this psychotic disinfectant, we're wiping out our gut flora. Thank you very much.